Hello, and welcome to Glitch Point. This show is a travel through different topics where we start at a singular point and we glitch our way through conversation.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll end up somewhere. I'm Cody.
I'm Spencer.
And yeah, this is episode 1, so give us a break. We're doing our best.
Yep. If anybody ever listens to this episode.
Well, the true fans will definitely listen to this episode.
True.
So yeah, we don't really have a topic today, which is terrible, but I think that we can create from what we've been doing in the week, which is, I think that the best topic that I have is I've been playing Grand Theft Auto, and what is it, 5?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah, 5, which came, you said
2013. Was when that came
2013,
out.
which is 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. I had played, I played it quite a bit. I never finished the campaign, so I went back and I was going to play the campaign. But I'm blown away at how good it is, and so I think that a good thing to talk about is just, do we really need to advance? Because some of these, what they were able to do with technology that was 7 years old, is already incredible. I mean, the world is huge. And I know that we're talking about, huge worlds that are coming out, but I mean that is so dense and massive. And I think that the only thing that we can gain from this point on, what I think developers are trying to do, is create more density per block. So meaning like every door you can go into. So and I think that that's like one of those things that was one of the hopes from like early games and like in the 90s and stuff, that we always hope like, I want to be able to go into every building, I want to go in, like every structure is traversable.
Yeah, I mean, that was my biggest problem with Fallout 3, was like just how much of that game was like, God, I wish I could go into that building, but like half the world is just destroyed away.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it definitely fits the aesthetic, but like you can definitely see the limitations that they wanted to put. And they had places where, like, that would have been a cool place to go to, but they couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought you could go into most buildings.
I mean, yeah, there was some, but, I mean...
A lot of locked doors.
A lot of locked doors, a lot of doors that are just, like, they're not interactable.
Yeah.
In Fallout 3's case, since that would have been, I mean, same generation, but years earlier. I mean, a lot of dungeons, so, like, you have to press A to enter, go to the load screen, wait for the load.
Is it the same in the Elder Scrolls series? I mean,
yeah, it's the same engine. So, with Elder Scrolls 5, the newest one, which is 9 years old now, it's the same stuff,
Yeah,
but
it's hard for me to remember. But yeah, I guess they were just, I mean, that's what they did. They just had locked doors. So it's just, you had certain doors you could go into, and usually they would have a sign, or they'd be shopkeepers and stuff like that would like indicate that this is a open building.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's going to be like, because I suppose if you can go into every door, then it really comes down to how much dialogue do they have to write per door. And it's like, it's not even about the efficiency of the engine or the technology. It really comes down to
content.
Yeah, content, which is ridiculous. Like, how much content can you make? And you're making a ton of content that people might not even pay attention to, which kind of what we talked about. We didn't have a last episode.
Like you said, true fans know that there's a podcast that is released out there of
there are a couple of phantom episodes out there that we don't speak of.
Yeah, a lot of Doom stuff, but like it. I mean, that's a balance that game developers are constantly fighting. Of like, you could add more, but is it worth it? Like, what percentage of your players are going to be interacting with this? And if it's high enough, is it still worth the cost of developing it?
Well, it was like in Grand Theft Auto. Like, one of the most amazing elements to that game is the radio. And the radio, it's like they have all... It's fine because they can just play a collection. But they actually make songs that were specifically for the game. Like, that aren't even real songs that they had to put on the radio. Because I would listen to it, and it would be about the city... What is it?
Los Santos.
Los Santos. Yeah, so there'd be songs about Los Santos. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I was just thinking, like, when I was sitting there, I'm like, what if they did podcasts? Like, what if in the next iteration they had podcasts? And, like... You could then have, and how much content would that be?
Well, that reminds me of, I want to say it's NFL, ESPN 4 or 2K4 or 3, where they had actual broadcasters not only record like over the game, so you have like commentators for a game, which every Madden or football game has, but they had like in the single player mode, they had like famous radio hosts record radio for the game. So like you could literally log
really?
onto the radio and it would be relatable to the game.
Yeah.
And it was like insane. It was so immersive, and they don't do that ever. But like that was a lot of work to put in for a mode that a lot of people did play, but I mean the game eventually died out, but it was really cool.
Yeah.
It was super immersive to be able to be like, oh, this radio is happening for this game right now.
So how would they be able to watch? So it would just be I'm a little confused.
Well, like normal
I wasn't a huge into sports
like
games,
normal football games and baseball sport games in general, they have like commentators that talk about the game, and it's like, oh, he made the shot or whatever. But like this mode was a story driven mode, so like they had certain beats, like, oh, this is when the player is going to be working through like the farm games or going through his all-star game. So like, and they'd have like a dynamic radio host that related to like how you were doing in your career and talk about your player.
So basically, how would they be able to do that? Because you're
remember.
uniquely creating the player names, right? If you're
No. It was vague enough to where they could apply it to anybody.
They could apply it. Okay.
You know, they could be like the rookie.
But it's still a lot. I mean, like it's a lot of vocal content. Like to be able to do that, because you now have to piecemeal all that together. So you have to have little pieces, clips, basically, of content, which I guess like you can do. Like, but I mean, it kind of does make the game special. It's in some senses, it's a lot like Oblivion and the Elder Scrolls series in general when they do the books. Like people actually sit down and write those books.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're not very long, but you can literally go through those books and read them. And they're like stories. They're like short stories. It's pretty incredible. But it's got to take a lot of time. I mean, that's a lot of somebody has to sit there and do that. I mean, like, and I'm sure
and there's teams that are just dedicated to write lore. I mean, like the Grimoire cards in Destiny that we talked about was like there's just I mean, development wise, a lot of that story was kind of like the old story they had rewritten to these cards. But there's people that are just pumping out stories. It's just like an artist, like, you know, like kind of an assembly line art job where you're just kind of given an asset, make the asset, publish the asset, like just going through this process. Yeah. Same thing for writing. You know, just make 5 stories by the end of the sprint. You know.
Well, I think a lot of the and maybe I'm wrong because I didn't jump into a lot of like the Halo lore or the different FPS lores in the book wise. But I mean, that's kind of where they just contract authors to write the books.
Yeah.
Right, and then the books create the lore based off. And I don't know how Destiny did it, because Destiny didn't have much lore when it first came out.
They don't have much external lore, no.
Yeah, well, I mean, they kind of did, and that was the big complaint when it first came out was there was no in-game representation of the external lore, but...
I meant, like, external, like, having an author. Like, yeah, most of the Halo books are not written by any of the developers. I know Joe Staten from Bungie, he wrote a couple books, but he's the guy who invented the story of Halo.
Yeah, in the Destiny world.
No, he wrote in Halo world. Destiny, no, I don't think there's any Destiny book out there from an external author. But that probably stems...
I mean, is there even a base storyline? I mean, I guess...
There is a base storyline, and there's, like, books about it. Yeah, there isn't. No. And I think that any external lore that comes from Destiny comes straight from Bungie, and probably stems from the fact that they did not enjoy having external stories written about Halo. Well, and they clashed a lot with external artists about it.
And it also twists the story.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, they kind of found... I mean, that's probably one of the biggest lessons they learned from the Halo series was...
Halo Reach retconned a whole book.
Yeah.
Which is, like, the best book, but
it's just hard because these things take... Now you have lineage, you have all this history that you have to follow, and like it makes things confusing, and we did talk about this as well. But
yeah, I mean, it can get out of hand, and it definitely got out of hand with Halo, and Halo 5 is a great example of it getting out of hand and having an isolating campaign for players that just don't know what the hell's going on. But even someone like me who is into the lore, not as much as others, of course, I was confused at some parts in Halo 5 and 4, but not as much as 4.
But I think there's a difference between lore and immersive content.
Yeah.
So I would say that the writing the books, it's not really lore, it's immersive content. So it's like it's extra content that makes the world feel more vibrant and more real. Mm-hmm. Or the Grand Theft Auto radio, you know, and like having radio casters. And by the way, that stuff is really funny. And you know, it just being able to listen to that, and it's like it sounds like real radio when you're on there, and you know. But it takes a lot of time. I mean, and you can. I think the other type of lore you can contract out, but I don't think you can contract that stuff out. you really have to do that in-house. And I would imagine that they would just have a lot of the developers do it over time, or maybe you have special teams that do it, but rather than bringing in writers. Like, you don't really need to bring in a writer. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe.
I think it depends on how much you want, Like,
Well,
if
and how good you want it to be.
yeah, maybe not as good, but just, like, how much direct control you want over it. Because when you contract work out, you're losing a sense of control of, like, it's an external studio or an external person. Like, you're not one-on-one. Like, yeah, it's not in-house stuff. So, like, things like the codex pages, not the codex pages, just the rune, lore pages from Doom.
Yeah.
Probably not all of those were written in-house at id. They probably had external studios write those with, like, strong oversight, but...
Yeah. I guess you're right. I guess it just depends. I mean, it also probably depends, like, how much they think that it's going to affect the experience.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, and I keep going back to it, but the Elder Scroll books, I bet you those were all written just... They weren't great, They were, like, kind of mediocre when I would read them. And they just seemed like they just kind of tasked it out. Like, everybody write a book once a month. Or, like, write a little, like, blurb about something.
Yeah, which, I mean, that would be fun. I mean, if I was at my job and they were just like, hey, just write this little thing, get it done whenever by, like, this date. It'd be a nice little, like, creative outlet to just do whatever you want,
But I think that, like, the one thing that I found is when I was thinking about it, I was like, if you were going to do the podcast, right? Let's say you did the podcast for the next Grand Theft Auto. And, like, you could go on your phone, you could listen to podcasts. How would you do that? I mean, like, because... One, it has to be funny. So, like, it can't... I mean, I guess it could be scripted. And that's the thing. Like, most of the radio announcers right now are scripted. But if you were going to do it, it would have to be... It would have to be good, right? Like, it couldn't just be, like, shitty podcasts. So now what are you talking about? Like, hiring real podcasters to do it? And then, like, are they going to do fake podcasts for an experience, just for a game that aren't really going to get published? And then, like, how far can you take it? How immersive can you get to where it becomes a job, and, like, who's going to do it?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like having, like, guest voice actors. Like, back in Halo 3, they had, like, multiple people from Rooster Teeth come in and do voice acting. Yeah, like, sometimes people are like, oh, I'll be happy to do that. That sounds fun. But, yeah, I guess if you take immersion so far enough, it'll probably be like, okay, yeah, we need a podcast group.
Yeah.
Hire a podcast to play on the radio in Grand Theft Auto 6.
Well, because, I mean, like, they are trying to mimic a real world, but the real world takes effort. And, like, to make that kind of content, that secondary content.
We look at Grand Theft Auto 5 of how immersive it is. Then you look at their next game, which was Red Dead 2. That game is, like, insanely immersive.
Yeah.
The horses poop.
Yeah.
And, like, some artists and designers sat there and scripted a horse that poops. And they made poop assets, and it's like, that was work. That was done.
Yeah.
And we just sit there and go, oh my god, the horse poops. But to them, it's just like, I mean, to everyone, that's, like, super immersive.
But it's different because...
No.
I guess there's a difference between mimicking the real world and creative content. Because if you're going to mimic the real world, like a horse pooping, it's like, oh, well, I could think of all the things that you might want to do, like, make fly algorithms or, like, have all these things that, like, you're extending what the world really is. But for creative content, it's not guaranteed. Yeah. Like, you'd have to have somebody that's creative to be able to come up with it, and, like, it has to be good. And it's like, how do you do that? But yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, there's two different things there, but it is. I don't know. I didn't play Red Dead.
I haven't really much either.
It's on my list. Like, tons of things. But I would imagine, like, the dialogue itself becomes that element, and, like, for The Witcher, like the Witcher was like the dialogue was that element, it was just really well written. But then you have writers. I mean, then it becomes writers that do that. I don't know. It's just pretty incredible. Like, it's incredible. Like, and if Cyberpunk comes out and, like, you go into a room, I mean, it's kind of that element of being able to follow around an NPC and being engaged with that NPC no matter what it does.
Yeah.
What's it going to do, though? Is it going to go to school? Is it going to have a play? Like, you're going to follow this girl to her high school and then she's well, that sounds weird.
Wow, Cody, what the?
Well, I was thinking like an after-school play, and like I couldn't think of a way to get there. Fine.
All right, we're talking about Bully 2. There you go.
Yeah, fine. Well, whatever.
Now it's normal to be in high school.
But are you going to be able to like see people like create stuff within the game and like let's say it's kind of like The Sims, you know, like if they were to like do something that was persistent. So if they created an item, like if they're a painter, they paint something, but then that painting now gets sold in a gallery, and now it ends up in someone's house who buys it.
I mean, I think that's like next level Sims. Like that's what The Sims wants to do, is just like simulate these things. So I'm like, I mean, if they're ever to be like, let's make The Sims next gen, like let's take it to the next level. It's those types of things, you know.
But it seems like that's what everybody like for these giant worlds is trying to do. I feel like that's the end goal, is like to make NPCs that act.
You want a simulation?
Yeah, they want a simulation. They want act real, you know, like so you can follow them around and they have daily schedules and they go to bed, you know, and like and I'm curious to see if we'll start seeing that, like that kind of, it's especially if they do another Grand Theft Auto, and like because I know Cyberpunk is going to be the first touch we get to see if that's going to happen for that game, because I think that's what I think a lot of people are continually hoping for, is the idea of this density of the game, where it's like it's not as big of a world, but the density allows for NPCs to feel more real, or like the things around you to feel more real, like they matter.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't know if, you know, I mean, I guess that, a lot of people hope that Cyberpunk is going to be that immersive, but I don't know if that's, you know, their design goal, you know. Maybe they just want to make a Cyberpunk game, so it might feel more gamey than immersive. Simulating, not immersive.
But it's kind of what they promised with their last games. Because that was the element of, I think that's their gimmick, is every NPC matters.
Yeah.
So like you can start talking to an NPC and it can be a long quest. Like it can get you involved in a long quest, but I don't know. No, I had a thought, but I lost it.
That's okay.
So it's you, buddy.
I mean, it's just a lot of work, and I mean that's a lot of work to put into. Unless that's your core gameplay loop, like that's a lot of work to put into something that's outside of that, like the core gameplay of the game for Cyberpunk. So I don't know if that's really what they're gonna. I hope they do, but I mean, also with like The Witcher, you can get away with having low populated areas because it's a different era. True. But with this, it's like this is supposed to be a booming city. There's a lot of. I'm hoping it's like it feels like a crowded place, and if it's the case, then it's going to be difficult to get that like every NPC matters unless they do something with like frequent randomness of like when you're walking down the street and you
or
like
schedules.
Yeah, but if like you're walking down the street and like some random dude just kind of nudges you in the shoulder, like just randomly, and then like that starts a quest line. Like that feels immersive. It's a random thing, you know. You were just sitting it, rolled a die, and it just said this is the time to give this quest to the player, but it feels cool.
Yeah, it's like butterfly effect.
Yeah.
I mean it. Don't you feel though every time you enter into these large open world games, like that's a promise that you hope will be fulfilled sooner or later?
So specifically, every NPC matters, or that is just super immersive? No,
that every NPC matters. That like they have a schedule, that like they have their own lives, and I've seen this promised in advertising multiple times.
Actually, yeah, because of Animal Crossing.
Watch Dogs kind of promised it. Did Animal Crossing promise that?
That's all Animal Crossing is. The whole world is running on a constant, like, every minute is a minute, and like the store closes at 6. If I boot the game up right now, store's closed.
Yeah.
I can sell things in the Dropbox, and like other stores are closed and other villagers are walking around. Maybe they have their nightly thing that they do, or maybe they're building in their house, but like the game doesn't stop going unless never. Like I haven't played in a while because I've been busy, but like if I boot that up, people are going to go, "Wow, you haven't been here in a while."
Yeah.
And it's just like that level of like that game is incredibly immersive. Really cool. It's always been that way. That's like Animal Crossing.
I've never played any of them.
This one though is like, I'm pretty sure this is the first one that's real time, like minute by minute goes by in the real world. That's and it's cool. I mean, like, you know, it just became May, so fish that were available, fish and bugs that usually live in April, they're not available anymore. I'd have to wait till next year to pick them up.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it's cool because at the end of the month, you're like, shit, I gotta go fishing because I'm gonna miss these fish. And like the store cycle through. You have a savings account with interest. They just announced like 2 weeks ago that like interest rates were dropping for your savings account in Animal Crossing for, I think, to combat people farming bells. But like that game is like on another level of immersion.
Yeah.
When I'm booting that game up, it's like I am there. I wish.
But how many
It'd be insane if it
people?
was-
I mean, it is a very small town, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, it's a small town, but I can go to
Which is
anyone's
good.
town.
Well, no, I know, but that's kind of how
Yeah.
they're able to manage it. Is it's not like they have.
Yeah, no. I mean,
5,000
games
thing.
got an artistic art
Yeah.
style, and like it, that's not achievable in like the big. Well, it is a big AAA game, but yeah, it's
No,
not,
but I
that's
think
hard to replicate in a game like Cyberpunk.
But I think that we're kind of trending towards that. I mean, like
Yeah.
it's something that I think that everyone knows, everybody wants.
I mean, yeah, it shows everyone's playing Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Like it's huge, probably because we're all in quarantine as well, and it helps to have like a world to escape to. But like, I don't know, everyone loves it.
Well, it's also like MMOs. I mean, MMOs are the same type of. Thing. Well, I guess it's a little bit different.
No,
because,
I think MMOs is a great way to get a game like that. I mean, did you ever play Star Wars Galaxies? The Star Wars MMO, it got shut down.
yeah, not really.
Like that game, you literally could just like you just got a job. Like you could literally just live your life in the MMO. It's just like, oh, I make lightsabers, or like that. Like that's my job, and you could literally just live in the world.
Well, it
That's
does. It
insane.
does make sense to accent PCs and actually allow people to work.
Yeah, like it'd be cool to when you start
but there's
allowing
no
players.
financial. It's not. I mean, I know you can do it in Second Life. I've never done Second Life, but I've heard
I've
like
never played, but yeah,
Second Life you can actually make money, and there's like commerce in that, and like you can. So it.
kind of like when do you allow in an MMO sense when you allow players to be the NPCs? You know,
Which makes more sense because
like
they're
imagine a
interactive.
game where you could literally like create quests and you could stand in the middle of a town and just sit there and give quests out.
Yeah.
Be like, go fetch me 20 flowers, and people could do that, and you could like give them like you could just build a whole ecosystem of letting people do the thing, and I'm sure people will go nuts, especially if you throw it into VR.
Yeah,
And then we start getting into like Ready Player One shit.
that's true. I mean, Ready Player One's a little bit like exaggerated.
Oh, for sure.
in its sense because
I mean,
they don't answer a lot of the questions that.
no, but when you look at Ready Player One and you look at VR chat, it's kind of scary how similar they are.
But
It was
you-
like everyone has their own little avatar.
Oh,
they can
okay.
be whatever they want,
The
and
one
like
thing that
you just
they
roam
can't
around.
solve, and they couldn't even solve in the movie, is how do you walk infinitely? And they had the
They
had
do.
the
They have a
had the
machine.
no
You walk
that
on, like,
and
the
that
treadmill.
machine exists. It's the omnidirectional
Yeah,
treadmill.
and theirs is just like way more advanced.
No, it's just the omnidirectional. It's the same. You can buy that.
No, I mean like the
treadmill.
one like in the book and in the movie. This is
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's the omnidirectional, but probably just more advanced in some way.
But it doesn't solve it because it's not cost efficient. But I guess I don't know if that would solve the problem because you can't roll.
Yeah, they don't explain how. I mean,
Like and
maybe
there's
neural
no
links.
You couldn't like
Think
dive
about
in the
diving and a dive. You know?
Yeah,
I don't,
No.
but I don't know. It's right. It's a movie book, so
I mean, it would because once you jump, it's over because you've left the confines of the treadmill.
yeah,
It's just like if you jumped on a real treadmill, it's not
True.
going to know what the hell you're doing.
yeah.
It's not going to be able to sense. But maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that is literally the point in which we are free moving in a virtual existence is when you can do a roll.
I mean, look at
When
that.
you
Did you see the
can-
movie Gamer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had like you have like your own cube all to yourself, but I mean there are walls, but I mean the floor I'm assuming it's like a gigantic
the
omnidirectional
second-
thing, and
yeah.
where like it's big enough to where I cannot leap outside of these bounds. So if I did the dive, it would just the floor would react to my dive, and then it would center me back into the room.
Well, I mean, this is kind of a Star Trek thing. I mean, it's the
Holodeck.
Holodeck, yeah. So it basically it's a matter reorganizer. So it's like moving the entire world under
Yeah.
you and then showing you in front of you, and then like so you can dive. But when you dive, I think this is how I read about it once. I'm somewhat of a nerd. It'll move. It just moves, right? So it just
Yeah.
moves you back, and like so you can dive, and then it'll slowly move you back to the center.
Yeah, that's the goal. Just like
Yeah.
constantly keep you in the center and make it big enough
You
to where
might-
I can't leap out of these bounds.
You might be out off the center, like you might be able to roll or do something else that'll move you away from the center, but then it'll slowly, without you noticing, move you back
Yeah.
to the center. Like if you got up, it would start to move you without you noticing.
That's the end goal.
Yeah.
I
So
guess.
I'm sure we could get that. Maybe. Hopefully.
I don't know. We're making progress. Like VR, we have finger tracking in the Valve Index now, and
Yeah, but I think AR is going to take its place. Like
AR is really cool. I like that more.
It allows you to not have to worry because you are moving around the world because all you have to do is now track the surfaces and use those to represent the world, and then you can move around the world freely like we
Yeah.
do in regular life, and it just becomes immersive in its own sense. Like you can have it infinite.
Yeah.
But it's also the recognition and the portability. I think that's the biggest part with AR is it's just not plugged straight into a computer. Like all AR devices are self-contained,
Yeah.
which is just going to make it's like a cell phone, and then like it has the capabilities of a cell phone.
I mean, yeah, that's why cell phones are pushing augmented reality so hard.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but I mean that's different than I guess the goggles or the glasses.
yeah,
that
I mean,
are
it's
stuck on
still
your face.
using this as your goggles, pretty much.
Yeah,
Which isn't as cool as, yeah, like having a HoloLens on or the other ones.
yeah.
I don't know the name of.
Magic Leap, I think, is the only other one.
Hmm.
Are there other ones? I think
Yeah,
it's
and there's probably tons of like third-party AR goggles or something.
just a bunch of it's a bunch of marketing schemes.
Sure.
Well, at least Magic Leap was a huge marketing scheme.
Yeah.
Whale that like, did you ever go to their website?
No.
Oh yeah, they had the whale that like dived into the basketball court.
Wait, is
you
Magic
remember
Leap-
that?
No.
So Magic Leap was a bunch of game developers that came up and made a promise of
I mean, they're still going.
what they did in other than other ARs, where ARs were you would look through a projected surface, so like a glasses or something that had an image on it, and then
Yeah.
that would allow you to see in the foreground. Magic Leap's whole thing was they were going to alter the light that was going into your eye, so they would create the image inside your retina.
What
um,
the? Oh, okay. I'm on their website now. What?
Yeah,
the
it
hell?
not really what they did. It was a. I mean, like they made a lot of promises. They it was supposed to be amazing, but it ended up being the same thing as a HoloLens. It didn't.
50-degree field of view. Wow,
Yeah.
that is slow.
Yeah, well, it's
They
always
say it's a wide 50-degree view.
well, it's always the box. I mean, that's the shitty part. Like,
Well-
when you stick the HoloLens on, you get the box,
Well, they have the HoloLens too.
and the other thing is, oh, I didn't know that. I mean,
Like they have, they came out with like a
does it still de-res when you get close to it?
I don't know.
'Cause
Okay,
that was
so
how they
yeah,
solved
HoloLens
the-
1 had a low 34-degree, and the 2 has 52. So it almost doubled the FOV of the HoloLens
Wow.
2.
But the other thing was like the level of detail. I don't think they could handle like how close you got. So what it would do is it would just de-res.
Oh,
And,
okay.
like it would break apart in particles, and like so you couldn't actually see it if you got too close to it. I think that's just to stop people from getting really close and expecting it to look perfect, which it wouldn't, because now you're talking about a higher level of detail at that
Okay.
distance.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I mean, it should. I mean, yeah, it'll get there. I mean, I think that I almost wish they would strap it to a computer. I know why they won't do that, because they want the freedom of movement, and that's kind of the direction they're going. And so they're producing a product that will be the same product that they'll produce when it does work.
Yeah, and
but
I
it's just
don't know
gonna-
what their plans are with, are they going to make that consumer or...
It's not gonna be consumer for a while, because
Yeah, like I don't know if... but I don't even know if that's the end goal of like the HoloLens division. Is it to get to a consumer level, or is it to stick strictly enterprise, or just research? I don't know.
dude, I would wear a Cyclops type fucking helmet thing.
Oh yeah, did you remember when Google
If it was-
Lens
if it
came
was-
out?
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanted one so bad. I mean, they were
but
shitty,
again, it was
but
super expensive, and it was
yeah,
just
it's super expensive, wasn't really
just
good,
for
discontinued really
illegally
quickly.
filming people.
Like Google does.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I would 100%. Like, I would go back to wearing glasses if it meant I could have cool shit floating around the world.
Yeah. No, it's going to be great. Well, it's so productive. And I think that's the difference between VR and AR. It brings that into a lot of different fields, where VR, it tends to say it's going to, like, it has an educational side and all this, but it doesn't. It's really for gamers. It's really for people that want to be immersed in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's an isolating product.
It isn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's tough to. I don't know what else to do with it. I mean, I went to Halo Outpost back in August, and they hooked us up with like a backpack computer and headset, and like we played a VR Halo game, and it was really cool because like running around with the VR headset on, since the backpack was on, I wasn't tethered to anybody.
Yeah.
That was really cool, and I think that's where VR could excel later, and is like, it's cool to have it at the home and play games. And I know my index is coming on Friday, so I'm gonna play Half-Life Alyx like all fucking weekend. But and see what the future of VR is, because I've heard that a game is like
Yeah.
it's completely different on a different level of VR. But going to a place to play VR, like an arcade, that is fun. And I would do that over having it as like a
Yeah,
consumer
well, they have
product.
those like buildings where they outfit the whole building to be the VR experience.
Yeah.
I haven't really. I don't know if those still exist or.
I'm sure somewhere.
I mean, I remember back in the day, they had. It was basically the same thing, but they like it was like Mech World or whatever like that, and like you got into these big mech machines with TVs and stuff, and they had.
yeah.
What's the name of that racing game? Wipeout. They had Wipeout, basically a Wipeout clone game where you would sit in the cockpit of the thing, and it like was supposed to be feel
Yeah.
real. So I feel like that's the next iteration of that
Yeah. I
marketing
mean,
scheme, where it's like, oh, come here and we'll create this like, which it's once technology becomes better and we don't need that anymore. It's just they're going to dissolve, and that's what happened. They all dissolved.
yeah. And
Because-
until Half-Life Alyx got announced and they showed off like kind of what they were doing, I was under the boat of like, I don't think VR is going to take off and it's just going to be an arcade type thing. Like it's going to just resort to, I go to a place to play a VR game, but I don't really have it. But I've heard that this just changes the game, but I can't speak.
But it's not
So
gonna be
maybe
like
when I play it, I don't know, maybe I'm going to sit there and just go as hard as, I mean, it's a big barrier to get into VR for the machine and the headset and all
Well, that's
that
what I'm
stuff.
saying.
But,
It's not going to be the Wii,
oh God, no.
but AR will be the Wii.
Yeah, 100%.
AR will be the Wii.
And that's why AR is going to the phone. Everyone's got a
grandma
phone.
will play AR because it just the fact that she could have her canasta night on, and it does not like I guarantee you, and you could do that in VR, but to get your grandma in VR is impossible. To get your grandma in AR, where you can like put the glasses on off and then slowly bring things in.
Yeah.
It's like it's this idea. The problem with I think VR is it's just such an altering experience, and it's so techy.
Mhm.
Where AR just doesn't feel as techy. It's like
No, and-
it feels like the average person can utilize this, and for businesses, whether you want to install a new plumbing, thing, and like it's tutorial that does that, it just I don't know, and I think that VR is not going to become big until after AR becomes big.
No, and that's why I think companies are going so AR focused with the phone is like technically, even though having a phone is a barrier to getting into augmented reality, because everybody has a phone, it's like there's no barrier to augmented reality. Everyone's got a phone and it's got AR built into it now.
But it's different because it's a window. It's a window you're
Yeah,
holding around and looking around using your window. Your little and
Yeah,
it's going to be different when it's on your
but
face.
when everybody starts getting so used to, and we already have gotten so used to having augmented reality on the phone, it's going to be a super easy transition when it starts becoming on glasses and stuff like that. I mean, like even just like Snapchat filters are kind of augmented reality.
Yeah.
You just like now you look like a lion.
But I mean, I can't wait till I can put my movie. I can sit outside at a park, put my movie on in the distance, watch my movie, and have the three people sitting next to me watching the same movie.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's
100%.
just ridiculous. That's like,
Yeah. I mean, that was the coolest thing with like the HoloLens demos they showed off of like, even though it's limited, just like being able to like sit here and just like look somewhere and just like put your game on the wall and just play there. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
That's the coolest
I
thing
mean,
ever.
it's literally, which is interesting. It's going to be really interesting because TV companies are going to go fuck in the can. Because why do you need a TV when you can
Well,
make a 50-inch TV?
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, they're
You
all
can make
just,
as big a TV as you want.
True.
I mean, I don't know if you've. I know you said you're getting the new Vive, but when you do, you should try. There's Big Screen, I think it's called, and basically they allow you to put your computer screen on a screen that you can make as big as you want.
wow.
And it's the problem is you can't see your keyboard, you can't see your mouse.
Yeah.
It's a little bit difficult to work with. But it's the second you do it, you realize
How limited you are.
this is amazing. It's like
I guess being able to sit like
if you could do it
sit
in
there
AR,
and just like look here and then be like, okay, like being able like I can just imagine like moving my head
but
around.
if you could do that in AR, where you could still see the keyboard, you could still see the things in real life, but then it was just you still had your screens. So instead of having, you wouldn't even need screens. I mean, like literally in 5 years or maybe whatever, how longer it's going to take to get out, people aren't going to have computer screens. They're just going to have AR glasses that they're going to sit at their computer desk and they're going to have as many screens as they want.
I'd love that.
So
It's all
it
of my
literally,
heart.
they can have 50 screens if they really wanted to, and they can change the size, orientation, where they are in the world. And it's just,
Like as someone who loves having like a super clean desk and like Bluetooth stuff, so there's no wires. I would love to be able to have a desk where there's no screen on it.
Yeah.
And I could literally just sit there and go, and it
Well,
just
the cool
boots
thing
up.
is you can have the screens there, and because they're positional in space, you can then go take notes, or have your books out, and your screens still stay there, and like you can still use the desk real estate for books and different things to be open. Like it's gonna get crazy, man. It's gonna get so nice, and like the fact that you could literally be sitting on the beach with your computer screens up, working, if you wanted to, and no one would know the difference. You just have your glasses on, whatever. You can be hanging out and then take them off, running in the water, go swimming. It's like
Waterproof glasses. Don't even take them off. We'll have the technology.
I put my screen in the bottom of the ocean so that I can hang, I could go
Coding with
scuba
the
diving.
dolphins.
Go scuba diving, do some work.
I was just so inspired when this dolphin flew through my screen that I just decided I needed to make this game called Echo Dolphin VR.
But it's crazy. And I know that this is the stuff that why I think people get really excited by VR is because this is the world they want. And I think that AR is going to fulfill the promises. Where I think VR is still going to exist, I think it's going to be secondary. I think it's not going to be as big. I don't think that sales. I mean, it's kind of hard to say with Alex coming out, Half-Life Alex, because that's Valve, and they have more money than God, and they can literally sink up in a bunch of money into a product that probably won't make that much money. Because I don't think that even though that game's amazing, and I think, is it free?
It's free if you've got the index, but it's normal $60 game. I mean, that's why it's such a weird.
So, like, if you don't upgrade, you don't get it for free?
No, I mean, if you already have a headset,
but,
it's just like buying a normal game.
But look at that. I mean, they're already giving away for free for a high amount of people.
Yeah.
So that already indicates
that made the index sell out. Like, it's been unavailable for months.
I get it.
And it's like it's insane that happened with the game, and I don't.
Because people have been waiting for Half-Life forever, so every little nerd that's...
And I'm wondering if Half-Life is what really pushed the sales over, or just like the trailer that they showed, because like they were showing gameplay that's just never been done before.
But it's not reaching outside the gaming community.
No, not really.
Yeah.
And that's gonna. I guess if you want, I don't think VR is ever gonna reach outside of the gaming community. Yeah, but I wonder if it's going to have a stronger presence in the gaming community. And really, it doesn't have a strong presence for reasons of like there's so many different headsets at different spec lines, so it's hard to make a VR game. It's just hard to make a VR game. Which one do you make it for? Do you make it for the base model, which has like literally little like sticks that you roam around, because that's going to limit you? And Half-Life Alyx they realized that there's a lot of different headsets, and there's a huge barrier into VR that if they were to say Half-Life Alyx is only on the index, it would not do anything significant because that's a $1,000 headset. So they made it available for the lowest end of VR headsets, and they had to spec the game out of like, there's finger tracking if you have the index, but if you don't, now your game has to not have finger tracking. Or
which they have the resources to do, which other companies don't.
No, and no other company is would put that much money into it because VR is not an established market.
I mean, there's some companies that give away.
A lot of VR games are going to PlayStation VR, and that's PlayStation funding them. Yeah, but VR is also like the most. PlayStation VR, as casual as it is like the most limiting one. You have to have the PlayStation 4, and you have to have that one. It's low spec. It's not really like high quality.
I mean, it's 90 hertz or 90. Yeah, refresh rate. If you have 120. It's 120.
Yeah, at like a 1080p res. If you have the Pro.
Yeah. Which is others weren't. I mean, they were 90, so everyone else was doing 90 when they were doing 120.
It's just tough because there's just so many different types of VR.
Yeah,
it's kind of like in the mid 90s where we had like a shitload of all these consoles. Some of them were crappy, none of them stuck, and we had like just random piles of consoles from all these different companies trying to make it, and then eventually, PlayStation and Nintendo won out, and Sega lost. But like, we had the Amiga CD. It's just like the 3DO tried it, like all those weird obscure consoles. All those obscure consoles. It's kind of like where VR is now. You've got the Oculus. You've got the HTC. Like,
I understand that, but it's still like the development, at least in Valve's perspective. I mean, they're making PC games, so they're dealing with hardware differences all the time. So any PC game has to spec it out, so they have to figure out exactly
but it's hard
and
to,
allow
like,
for the settings to.
Performance-wise, yeah, but when you're talking about completely different sets of input, that's hard to make a game.
Well, you have to have multiple paths through.
Yeah, that takes a lot of development.
It does.
And it's too risky right now. That's why no one has made a game like Half-Life Alyx yet. Because Half-Life Alyx is a $60, 15-hour single-player narrative.
Yeah.
That does not exist any other VR. And
Well,
that's a big.
I also
15
think that
hours in VR is.
a lot of VR. I mean, maybe that might be. I always thought that the reason that games were more samples and more like small experiences. I mean, there have been other ones that have attempted to make big games. They just weren't really good game developers, so the game sucked. But you know, I honestly think that I always thought that the reason why they went that way was because you could make a quick buck. If you made a small game, I mean, because when it came out, people just liked the experience. So a lot,
And they're willing to buy anything.
I know a lot of developers that just made a small experience that was a lot of fun, and they were able to sell it. You know, they were able to make money off of it because that's kind of the environment that was created off the beginning. Because it was when it first came out, and it's just because it's a new product and it's never been tried before. It was like, oh well. Have you ever seen it done this way? Done this way.
That's exactly what happened to, when the Atari came out. There's so many games on the Atari that are just like quick little piece of garbage games that are just out there. And
because it's like a show off. It's like
and then the market crashed, and then the NES came back, and it's kind of like a big restart. And the same thing happened. There's tons of super bad NES games that are just like a penny at stores and are just flooding because they're just garbage. Time. Yeah, like
possibly the worst game ever.
VR is kind of going through the same steps that the normal console market did, and I don't know if it's going to have the legs, but when Valve is investing their company into it, that might.
Yeah, but they also created the hardware. I mean, it's a little bit different.
Well, yeah, but they made it for all the other hardwares. Like, you've got different headsets here. Like, you can play Half-Life Alyx, and it's fine.
No, that's true. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, they've also, everything they've done, even from when they made Lab, which is, when Lab came out, Lab is an insanely good game for VR. And when you played it, you're like, these are great ideas. And guess what? Like Spawn, like there were so many Archer games. There were so many just like everything they did in Lab. Basically, people took and made 100 games off of it because they created ideas. They're basically like, hey, this is what you can do, and they showed the community what can be done. That's what they're doing again. They're taking a game and they're like, hey. We don't need to make money off of this, but this is what you can do.
Yeah, and I think this is, whereas before it was, look at what VR can do, and then everyone's like, whoa, cool, this is like, hey, this is kind of showing developers. Yeah, this is what VR could be if we all gave enough of a shit.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it just depends. I don't...
But again, it's risky. If you're EA, do you really want to spend a couple $100 million to make a Half-Life Alyx type game on VR?
Well, they made a
Not
VR
now.
game.
VR game, but what type of VR game?
They made one on PS Now, or PSVR, sorry, Eagle game. Did you ever play that?
Oh, yeah.
I loved that game.
And
I mean, they probably made some other games, but that game was amazing.
But did that cost as much as it cost to make, a Cyberpunk game? No. And that's how much money it spent to take Alyx. Again, you can keep making these small games, but, there's more out there.
Those are my dogs. Sorry, they're part of the podcast.
Mine have not even came up. It's pretty far away.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I hope developers will take this and run. But I don't know if it's going to change the community.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be enough right now because it's just too niche of a market.
What I think you're saying is that it may increase sales, which is what it. I mean, that's if the numbers show, people will follow. So if the amount of Vives out there or the amount of just VR headsets alone increases, then there's a market
to make games for.
That's the biggest concern with most developers is exactly what you're saying. I can spend all this money and I'm not going to get my return because it's such a small market.
And the other problem with VR is that because there's so many different types of headsets with all different types of inputs, it's nice to have this tier list of where do I want to go into VR? If you're a developer, it's okay, how many indexes are there? So do we make a game with finger tracking? Or how many are there of Oculus Go's, which is the lower spec of the Oculus? It's it's tough to sit there and go, what can we design around
But they
you know?
mostly function the same way. I mean, yeah, you have some extraneous features, but
Yeah.
it's not like those features are going. Yeah, I suppose like catching the thing and like.
Yeah, maybe Alex is a good. I haven't played, and I'm
What
kind of
is it
curious
like?
to play it on the Index and then maybe someone else's headset to see how different of a game it feels when I don't have some of the fancy features the Index offers. But maybe
But
that's a way that you can show like
What
there's
is
a way.
what is the finger tracking in comparison to pressing the button? They do the same thing. Like with the finger tracking, yeah, you can see your hand individually move, which is really cool, and God, it feels really good when you pick stuff up. But that's the same thing as just pressing the trigger and having them all move at the same time. So like if you're gonna catch a gun that's gonna be thrown at you, just press the trigger and it catches the gun and it just does a
But imagine
cannon.
But imagine being
response.
able to say everyone's got finger tracking, so now I can make a puzzle around individual fingers and like being able to press certain buttons in certain areas, which you
True.
just can't do.
Yeah, you can't.
And again, I really want to play it, and and next week I'll be newly born of played Half-Life Alyx and hopefully all of it in the weekend. But I've heard that like there's certain puzzles that they have that just aren't possible, and they had to like have different tiers of the same puzzle if you didn't have finger tracking, because like you see in some clips of the trailer where they have like you're pressing buttons with individual fingers, which you can say, okay, tell the player press pinky then middle finger then this one, or you can just, since they don't have fingers, just press the X button and it does the animation for you.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, do you want to do the animation or do I want to grab the door and pry it open myself? And I want to do.
Of course, you want to
Yeah.
do that, but I mean, there are as you said. I mean,
So yeah, if you can
that
tear
is
it down, it's
designing
doable.
around the limitations,
Yeah.
and that's always going to be the case. You can always design around the limitations. I mean, I think that the hardest part is just the capabilities and the processing power. But again, that doesn't have anything to do with your screen other than refresh rates. And I suppose refresh rates would change, so you would have to change the game a little bit for that. But
Yeah,
it's
No,
it's still
I
on
think
the
it's
computer,
just a
which
matter
has
of
to do with your hardware.
Yeah, I think it's just the inputs of making sure you're. And then, I mean, the other big thing that I know Valve had struggled with was the different movements of like there's the teleport movement, and then there's full body movement, and then there's kinetic,
Yeah,
where it's like I can either teleport there, or I can throw a ball and it lands, and then my guy walks there, or I have a joystick that moves there. So like.
I'm curious to know.
And
if
then
the
designing a
joystick that
game,
moves
some
there-
people can't stand for hours on end, so they have to play the game sitting. And Valve had to design around that. And they said the game is fully playable sitting down.
Yeah, which is
So
nice.
like, yeah. So maybe this is also a way of telling developers not only is there a big AAA experience out there that you can make, but you could also design it for all the different types of headsets.
But I think that any AAA company could do that. I
Yeah.
think that no indie company could probably. I don't think they could do that. I don't think they could handle.
I mean, look at Boneworks. That wasn't
Yeah.
a huge company, and that influenced Half-Life Alyx a ton.
yeah,
Like when Boneworks came out, when it went into like early access, Valve added that to like their whitelist of games that they have infinite access to.
what was the? I didn't actually play the game. Or
Boneworks?
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like a budgeted version of Half-Life Alyx. Like everything is fully kinematic. I can't run through walls. I can grab like it's it looks just like an indie company tried to make Half-Life Alyx, but they did it first. And Valve, when they were, they've been working on Alyx for a long time, and when Boneworks came out, they made tons of changes
yeah.
because they realized, holy shit, you could do this way better. And then like they repurposed so many things. Without Boneworks, I don't think Half-Life Alyx exists.
Interesting. I would say I'm surprised they didn't just hire everybody from that company and try to absorb it into
Who
their
knows?
own.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, that Valve.
Yeah.
When you look at Valve's history, that's what they've done. Other than Half-Life, that's what they've done. Team Fortress 2 was
Yeah.
them acquiring the guys who
Of course.
modded Team Fortress into Quake. Portal 2, DigiPen students that they just hired on said make Portal.
Digipen, or I mean, the original Portal as well. So
Yeah.
Portal and Portal 2 were
Yeah.
both.
The whole
Digipen-
Portal
yeah,
franchise.
the whole
So
Portal
like
franchise.
they do really well at finding people that want to make this cool idea, and they go, "Wow, that'd be way cool if you had a budget, wouldn't it?" And then they just give you the budget, and they just tell you to
Throw money
go.
at it.
And I think that happened again with Half-Life Alyx.
Which is good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's fine. I mean, Boneworks looks like a great game, and I'm going to play that as well. But Half-Life Alyx first, because I've been waiting for a long ass time.
play the AAA. Gotta play AAA.
I mean, yeah, I've been a Half-Life fan for a very long time. So.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's good, but it's interesting because it's not 3. So
No, it's so. Have you played it?
I have not.
Oh.
And my machine's down.
Oh,
The battery died, and so like I can't play it. So it's really really annoying. And so I have to rebuild a mini ATX build. So
well, you can come over and hang out and play the Index.
Yeah.
It'll be here Friday. But yeah, it's not 3. It's a prequel, pre-sequel. It's prequel to
Well,
2.
no, I know it is. Yeah,
So, but I've heard like I have
beckons-
been so under the rock for this game because I've been waiting so long for new Half-Life experience, and then I didn't get the index in time for the delays. So like I don't know anything. I don't know even if the game is good. I mean, I've heard from some people, but
I
like
would imagine. I've
I've been
watched
so
videos. I watched a PewDiePie.
out of it. I know nothing. I know zero things about the game. I've seen no gameplay outside the trailer. Like I've kept myself in the dark.
I've been
I
trying
hope
to
I can
get
do it
in.
for 4 more days. I should be able to because no one's really like it's not booming right now. But
Yeah.
and I've heard rumblings of like there are some ties into future stories or like ties into where Half-Life Episode 3
they
could have
definitely
gone. I don't
relit the candle. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like,
I mean, they said themselves, if this is a really successful product, we wouldn't mind making more. When they were interviewed,
but it's interesting to, I mean, because this is their new venture, so they put it onto their VR venture of Valve. It would be interesting to see if they make 3.
I don't think they will, because Valve's not a company that goes backwards. Like,
Yeah, no, I know.
I
If
mean, they say that.
Well, it's just a different game. I mean, like playing a keyboard mouse game is way different than playing this. Although I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to see. I haven't played it myself, so
And see, from what I've saw, like when Half-Life 1 came out, that literally changed everything for first-person shooters. It was just completely like no game has been
it has
changed.
story.
Yeah,
I mean, there was no shooter in
yeah, and the
around
AI
that.
was like
there was,
everything
like,
about
life
the
story,
game
but
was completely revolutionary.
We were
And
on
when
the
Half-Life
Quake.
2 comes out, they revolutionized again with physics-based engines in a first-person shooter as well as with story. So, I mean, there's a lot of people who believe that the reason Half-Life 3 never came out was just like, where are they going to go? Like, how do you innovate?
That's
how
not
do
true.
you get
because
something?
there was the episode 1, episode 2 that came out.
Yeah.
And those were huge innovations.
Yeah.
And it was always like every time they would create a new game, they would have some sort of, and I think we talked about this before, like the spider sacks, which is the coolest thing ever.
Yes.
The spider grenade, where like you throw it and like spiders just come out of the ground and attack the enemies. Like, and it's just so creative. And like the other thing with one of my favorite things was the rocket launcher, where it follows the laser and you just laser point it.
Crysis 2 stole that as well, and it was really good in that too. But
Well,
yeah, I think I mean I know there's a lot of people saying that like there was a lot of anxiety within Valve to do something bigger and better. If you're gonna make another Half-Life, it's got to be big because all the other ones that came out have always been this huge monumental force, and this type of game is. So I don't think Valve is gonna go back to making non-VR games. I think that they realize that there's things in VR that you just can't do with a keyboard and mouse, and I don't think they want to go back. I think if Half-Life has always been one of the more immersive first-person shooters, the way they put you in cutscenes and all that stuff. So this just seems like the next logical step of like how do we make it so much more.
Post the 3 on it though.
So when the developers were asked about like why didn't you guys go with the big 3, and it was anxiety. Like there's a lot of expectations if you're gonna say here's Half-Life 3, the next chapter in the story. There's
they want to ease people.
So they
into
wanted
it.
to be like, okay, we want to touch Half-Life again, but we don't want to have this monumental force of people with expectations because it's only been like 13 years. So they're like, okay, here's this.
Left 4 Dead as
There's
well.
no
I mean-
expectations from this game. Yeah.
What else has they left behind? I mean,
Everything.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of leaks have come out about there's been many Half-Lives or Left 4 Deads that have been made in that studio that have been canned. And I know they had internal fights
know
over
why they
what
would
engine to
can.
use. I think
Those games were great, but it's not like they were like the end all for fucking video games. When Left 4 Dead 2 was,
they had some
it was
really
a great
innovative
game.
audio.
It was great. It was a great game, but I wouldn't be scared to make Left 4 Dead 3.
No, I don't think it was
Not like a Half-Life. I get
Yeah.
Half-Life.
No, I don't think they were. From my understanding of just like there's been a lot of political stuff going on with Valve of like what do we actually want to work on, and there was the Source. I mean, they had the Source 2 engine in development for a while, so like I know some stuff I've read of they made Left 4 Dead or a version of Left 4 Dead 3 in the Source 2 engine, but another team or the same team, people in Valve made it for an Unreal Engine, and it was like, okay, well, which one do we choose? And they couldn't decide. And like there's just
that's
and then VR
silly.
came in, they're like, okay, well now we have VR. Do we make a VR Left 4 Dead? Do we not make I just
don't know
think
why
that
you would
Valve's
make-
been in a transitional period for a
Why did you
decade.
ever make anything for a different engine other than Euro? I mean, like, because it's only going to create more need for development.
I don't know
of
how
engine
good
and
Source-
like as you have development, as you have projects that are working on that engine, you're like, they're going to have needs that are going to advance the engine, which will advance the product, will advance the engine.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you ever like try
That's
to do
probably
it?
what the Source 2 engine was saying.
No,
Like,
I mean,
why are you making Left 4 Dead in this other engine? They're like, well, I don't know why. I didn't work there. And this is all just rumblings and
leaks. It may not
leaks.
have had a capability that they needed, that they didn't have time to put in the effort to create. And it's just, but I don't know. I mean, they seem like a huge company, so I would think.
I mean, if you worked at Valve, you weren't allowed to have a social presence really on social media.
Oh.
Like they limited you of what you could say and stuff like that. And then it just started to change when Half-Life Alyx got announced. And they're a different company right now, and I don't exactly know exactly why, but
yeah,
I don't know.
And
I mean,
Alyx is completely in the Source engine.
Yeah, Source 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Source 2. Yeah.
So which is cool, and it looks great. I don't know. I have to see for myself.
Well, we'll see. I mean, like, does and this is the other thing that I don't think exists right now is the modding community in VR,
Yeah.
which isn't really a thing. There's no such thing as a mod of a VR game.
No, I think that like the easiest
And
way to develop a VR game would be to know Blueprints in Unreal. Unreal's free.
Well, no, I know,
and
but if
Blueprints
you're
are free.
doing it in Source, and that is kind of where Valve.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's like half their titles were mods.
Yeah.
I mean, Counter-Strike was a mod, you know, and it's like it would be interesting, and I don't know anything about if they had a modding community for it, and they should. And VR should have. There's no reason VR should not have a modding community.
No, I think with Source 2 kind of like actually being out on the market, I don't know if Half-Life. I know that Dota 2 had some Source 2 or maybe ran on Source 2, but I think Half-Life Alyx is the first game that they're saying this is Source 2, like this is the shipped engine, like mod away, but I don't know if the mod tools are quite there yet, but I'm imagining if they were in Source 1, they're there.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
It'd be cool. I mean, like
Gary's
it'd be really
Mod
cool
VR.
if Alyx took off. Just like there are so many mods for Half-Life 2, like ridiculous amount. And they're full games that you can play that are free. That and it's like, what is it? Something Coast. Shoot,
Half-Life Lost Coast.
Lost Coast. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an official one though.
But it was free for a long time. It started as a mod.
Oh no, yeah, it's still free. But I mean,
is
like, it's an official, like, from I don't know
Valve.
if it's from Valve, but I
don't know. I remember
they put the Half-Life stamp on it. When you buy Half-Life 2, it comes with Lost Coast.
Well, it wasn't that way for a long time. I remember I had to look for that and play it. So, like, I think it was just a very well done mod. I would have to look into the history of it to really know.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was developed by Valve. I think it was
I don't think
outside.
so either. Because, I mean, they didn't make Episode 1 or 2.
But, I mean, there's just so many crazy games. I remember there was this game I used to play where you would, and I have no idea what the name of it is anymore, but you would go around as a first-person shooter, but it had a hacking element, and then you would hack into these computers, and then you would become like, you would be inside the hack, like inside of the computer world, and you would like do the hack, but you could go from one computer, just like silly, insane mods that existed for
That's awesome. Half-Life,
and I was like, that's what I want, you know, and it's there's since that, I mean, they kind of started that. And you see it in other games like StarCraft, where they have, like, basically they built it into the game. Yeah. So, like, the modding community is now built into the game itself. And I wish, that's what Project Alyx or Half-Life Alyx should be. It should be built in, like,
well, and
the modding community should be built into
the reason Valve has been so encouraging of mods is because their entire everything that Valve is based off of their first mod, which was Half-Life.
Yeah.
Half-Life's just a mod of Quake 2. So, like, they respect. I mean, Source at its core is probably still the Quake 2 engine, like most first-person shooter engines at this point.
But why do you think there's no VR mods? Why do you think that the VR mods don't exist?
Yeah, just the tools don't exist.
What do you mean the tools don't exist? I mean, literally, being able to mod is just allowing for your development tools to be open to the community. That's it. And then you allow for what people to make.
If you look at VR chat, like it's like modding.
What is VR
like
chat?
all of VR chat. The VR chat, like the game where you literally just like go in and you just load up any assets you want. Like just look up just VR chat videos of like the shit people put into that game. I think that's where the mod community is right now.
Okay.
That what you're looking for. Literally, I see things in VR chat and I'm just like, maybe there's other games that are like, there's another game that I don't know of, but like I see VR videos and I'm just like, where the hell is this? How did they make this? This is obviously something a developer didn't make.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
So what are you allowed to just bring in like pieces of code or like?
I'm seeing people. I don't know code, but like I'm seeing people import their own animating rigs and models that they just put in there, and
Oh, cool.
like I don't know.
I've never even heard of VR chat. There
Wow.
is that the only one that I think is close to that is there's that one VR game where you can basically
VR chat lets you create, publish, and explore virtual worlds from other people around the world. The
Yep.
game is literally
What's that one you-
mod central. So that it's kind of like a Gary's mod.
Oh, okay.
It's literally Gary's mod in VR.
Yeah,
That's
there
what
was
VR
there was
chat
something that
is.
was similar to this, maybe not the same, but like it basically allowed you to, so someone would film a scene, and they would have a camera, and you'd film a scene, and then you could go into their scene and add stuff to it.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it, but it never really took off. I mean, it was like a really good idea. I remember playing it, and I was like, oh, this is a great idea. But yeah, I'll check out VR chat. This seems interesting.
Oh yeah, they've got all sorts. I don't know. I feel like there's just everything in there. They have like a whole. I've like seen the fact that I'm watching YouTube videos of people playing the game VR chat of a comedy club. Like I'm literally watching a stand-up comedian in VR or on YouTube through VR because there's like an open mic night mod where it's literally just like a comedy club and you can just put your little VR dude up there and just talk to everybody at the club.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
And that's just a mod of this game.
Yeah.
It's insane. I think that's what you're looking for. I think you're gonna get lost.
Well, I mean, that's more of a provided content. I don't know if that's necessarily. I mean, like you couldn't.
That's not provided content. That's just a mod that some dude made.
Okay. What do you mean? I mean, like, so
VR chat
he's
offers
able
endless
to-
collection of social VR experiences by giving the power of creation to its community. Whether you're looking for new VR experiences or have an idea of your own, VR chat is the place to be. I don't know anything about like how to get your stuff in there. What are the limits of it? But like, people are making stuff all
like
the time.
crazy stuff. Yeah.
It's like Little Big Planet too. It's
Yeah.
like Little Big Planet, but VR.
but
so
I
I
wouldn't
think
really
that's
call
what you-
Little Big Planet a mod. I would call it a
A sandbox.
yes. I'd call it a sandbox. It's kind of like
Okay,
Dreams.
yeah, that's fair.
Dreams is not really a mod.
No.
It's an engine. Where I think a mod is I guess a mod is just taking the API and creating stuff. So
Okay.
it's really not that much different. So I don't know. I mean, where are the definitions between a mod and an engine?
Yeah, avatar creation. So create your own avatars and worlds with our Unity SDK. So I wonder if you need
Oh.
to know. Log into the SDK.
Wow, this is really.
I don't know. But don't dive into it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, this looks really
I
good.
think this is what you're looking for. I hope that we get to a point where we get Half-Life Alyx mods. And I think we will.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine. I don't know why they wouldn't. Let's see.
And I know one thing they talked about, and we're almost out of time, but is when they were deciding to make a big VR game, they had all their franchises at their disposal. They even talked in this video, the interview. They said, "What if we made a Portal VR game and used that?" And they decided no because that would be too motion sickness. Because flying through the air in VR is not
Well,
ideal
They did make a Portal game.
in VR, like a straight VR Portal game.
It was a sample. They made a sample.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like
Portal
they were
game.
gonna give Portal the Half-Life Alyx treatment, full
No,
$60
I know.
experience, and they said no because it's just not you.
It worked. It was kind of interesting. I mean,
For
it worked.
15 hours of campaign, will it
Yeah,
work?
I don't know. I mean, like,
they
we'll
said
see,
no,
yeah.
it just didn't work enough, and I don't know if that means that we're never gonna get a Portal game again because they just don't see it as a viable VR game, or
Well, and also
what.
a lot of the gripes, I suppose, for past hardware is
Yeah, those will be the last thing.
a lot of the gripes for the past hardware is just because of the frame rate and the capabilities of it. So I think that a lot of the sickness that we talk about, where it especially happens in movement, but I think that once we have high enough frame rates, I mean, like there are computer screens now that are. I just saw one that was 200.
240.
Yeah, 240.
Yeah.
You saw that? Yeah. So I mean, then, like if they can do that, if they can up the frame rate on your individual eyes, then I think it'll go away. I think people won't get sick anymore.
Well, yeah, it's
and as the hardware continues, we'll see.
and it's not really as someone who
capability
gets
for the
motion
game.
sickness from VR. It's not really like the screen door effect of seeing the pixels, although that's
It's
a big deal.
I really-
It's mostly of
I
like
think it's the frame rate, the refresh rate. So
like when I'm in the car, the reason I get motion sickness is just because I'm having so many subtle movements that my brain's not really processing, and
I
it
noticed a
gives me a headache.
difference when I did PSVR because PSVR is a higher refresh rate, and so like I could notice that I didn't get sick, and I could play a lot of different experiences.
And that's what I'm hearing from the Index is like it's not as they went with an LCD screen rather than an OLED because the LCD offered a significantly less screen door effect. And that's why I got it, because like it seems like this is my best option for VR with motion sickness, and I'm hoping that's the case. But it's mostly of the fact that when I'm moving and I'm not physically moving, my brain just doesn't like it and starts giving me a headache.
Well, it makes sense though that it would be the refresh rate, because since your face is so close to the picture, I mean, now you can tell the difference. It literally, you can see when the frames are off and on. I mean, a lot better. So I mean, as they become more fluent and like just like you see, you know, I mean, if you had infinite frame rate, you would see just the way that you see, you know, as light enters into your eye. So I mean, it makes sense that would, like, once they breach that barrier and they're able to do that with computational power or whatever, you know, whatever it takes. A lot of the screen door effect and sickness and all these things that have been holding back games, like what you said, is Portal, will go away, and you can have the experiences you want, and it doesn't really matter, you know. And
let's hope so.
Yeah, so I do think we'll see a Portal. I do think we'll see all the games that we want to see. I do think we'll see a lot of AR. But yeah,
hope we get Half-Life 3. That'd be cool.
Hopefully we get it. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Thanks for listening. I don't know where we started, but we ended with Half-Life Alyx.
There we go.